Hello, everyone.
Hello, and welcome back to...
That was not a teapot.
No, that was a water pour. Welcome to the festive sounds of H2O. And also I would like to plug power cords. Because without power cords, I wouldn't be able to record this. You know, just for the detriment of everyone listening to the dulce tones of my voice. I am FullMetalChicken.
I'm Steph.
I am part human, part chicken.
Okay.
So that, you know, that's why whenever we go through like a drive-through KFC window, I just say to the operator,
Operator.
Operator.
What is this? The 80s?
Operator, this completes me. Give me my popcorn chickens.
You know,
Then I release them into
I
the
don't
wild.
understand why popcorn chicken is so expensive.
Because it's small.
No, but you don't. Do you know what I mean? Like a bucket of popcorn chicken is so expensive, but then they have these promos where they make it really, really cheap, and then they make so much money because everyone's buying this popcorn chicken.
I want to get like, you know how they got the big family feast bucket? I want to see like $10 that amount of popcorn chicken.
Do you know you can build your own KFC bucket on the app?
Is it like...
It's really expensive to do though, because you have to put a minimum amount of stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it works out depending on what you get. Like the stuff I would get is a lot more expensive than what a family feast would be.
So hypothetically, if I was to pay $200, would it be more worthwhile going to Disneyland and getting a Star Wars lightsaber?
Yeah,
opposed to a
$200,
bucket of
darling,
chicken.
isn't going to get you to Disneyland. It would pay for your ticket into Disneyland, and it would pay for your lightsaber.
Disneyland.
But I think it's pretty cool. I would love to go. And
To Disneyland.
I've never been, mate. Not everyone had the childhood of...
Well, before it changed in the 90s, I went to Disneyland, and like everyone now goes to, oh, I say we're going to Disneyland, you know. Now people say, Kylo, when are you going to Disneyland?
What's with all the... There wasn't this much fangirling over Kylo Ren, the last movie, but now everyone's fangirling over Kylo Ren, and I don't know why.
I don't know, but I think there's a few people I know who would literally fangirl over the credits. Because there's
Anyway,
nothing.
Life updates. We narrowly, literally by a minute and a half worth of driving out of the storm cloud missed getting smashed last night by the massive
we missed it.
supercell. So.
That was a big cell. We were dropping golf balls.
We weren't, because...
Well, not in our area, but in other areas.
Literally, if we drove 2 minutes...
The other way.
That way, gone. Car,
Chicken
windows,
chow.
gone.
It would have been a
Do
chicken
you know
chow.
how many houses got flooded on the other side?
All of them?
No, I'm being serious. There were 800, the last time I checked, 877 in emergencies in the Vic Emergency app for calls for help.
I remember one time there was a massive hail downpour.
That was in the 90s, late 90s.
Pretty much. And then I remember one of my mates, his dad put a mattress on top of the car and everyone was laughing.
And the car was the only one that didn't get smashed that day.
But apparently it was in Northern Territory
Yeah,
that they gone on holiday.
Season.
And it was dropping cricket balls. And one of the other guys that came along, they showed up. And the dents that were in the roof,
that was
the
what
window
was
was smashed.
That was what was dropping yesterday for people.
Drop that hail.
No, I'm being serious. It took the hail 4 or 5 hours to defrost, to melt completely.
Yep.
It was absolutely crazy.
That's what the nature of hail is.
And you know it's because the smoke literally circumnavigated the globe, came back
Yep,
and caused
global
a thunderstorm.
Mm-hmm. And then like all these people saying, "No, we donated thousands towards fire relief," and then it rains, and it's like, well, that's called the environment.
It didn't rain where it was needed.
No,
and
just a little
because
bit.
do you know how much erosion happened? Because there's no like plant life to hold the dirt down.
It's just like mudslides.
And people from fucking the city who didn't get rained on were commenting to these people, oh, but you were bitching that you needed rain. And it's like, no, there's a difference between rain that you need to soak into the ground and eroding. Like people's houses were smashed, people's skylights, their houses got flooded. And this wasn't 5 minutes of hail, this was a good 40 minutes of, we're talking, like you said, it was bigger than golf balls actually. It was like the size of an adult man's palm.
Yeah, so moral of the story is, brick house, make sure you don't put skylights in. If they do, make sure they're reinforced.
Make sure you get a garage to park your car in, and also
get
yourself a 4-wheel drive, because that's the way society's going to go.
Yeah. Or buy a tank.
No, seriously?
Yeah.
I showed you the video of people who actually had four-wheel drives and they were able to drive yesterday.
Yeah, but there's
get
people
home.
like in England driving around in tanks.
Yeah, but that's England. They're allowed to do that. We're not.
But how cool would that be? Like,
I'm not saying it's not cool. I'm saying it'd be very expensive. Like, have you seen the prices for diesel lately?
oh, heck yeah. But, see, thing is that look at it as more like a monthly stroll
Monthly stroll.
through traffic. No, like, honk, like, you know, someone would rock up behind you and honk, honk. I mean, what do you do? Oops, I reversed. Bang.
Yeah,
Where'd
I
they go?
suppose.
Look, it's a pancake Volvo. Everyone loves Volvos.
Talking about loving Volvos, and while we're on the thing of travel, today's quiz.
Oh, boy.
You're going to love this one.
Oh, joy. If this better end up going where I think we're going. Chicken.
No.
Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Everyone prep yourselves because the chicken is on.
No, the chicken is not on. It's travel the world to find out which Star Wars planet you should live on. What link are you looking at?
I don't know, but this better be Alderaan. Okay, so pick a city in the US you'd like to visit. Can I say none of them? No. That's a bad joke. Haha. Yes.
God.
No. Okay, so we have Los Angeles.
Specifically above and behind the Hollywood sign.
Yeah. And then we have New Orleans. So what happens if things aren't leaning?
Oh my God, can you go
Okay,
through?
fine. There's some guy playing a trumpet. Okay, Seattle. Sleepless in Seattle. Then we have Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
And it's like yes. And then what else do we have? Scroll down. Chicago. We got Chicago with the big silver ball donut thing. And last but not least, we have New York, and it doesn't look like a bagel. Okay. So which city would I like to go to? Let's see. Well, I've been to Los Angeles, so I'm going to go Los Angeles.
I said Seattle.
I'm going to maybe go to Los Angeles.
Okay. Which Asian country would you like to visit?
Ooh, congratulations.
God. I don't know. See, I need to have my sound on for later on in the thing.
Yes.
I'm getting emails and I don't know why. And...
It's busy town. So, which Asian country would you like to visit? We have Thailand, where they sell ties.
Don't be rude.
I'm not.
Singapore, Japan, India, Vietnam, or China. Theoretically, I'd love to go to all places, but that picture of Japan,
Yeah.
the canal between the cherry blossom trees, that's got me.
Yeah, Japan's awesome. Okay, choose a European destination. We have London, we have Athens, we have Amsterdam, we have Paris, Rome, and Madrid. Ooh. Let's see.
London land.
It's a hard choice.
I'm kind of torn here.
Just because of
I'm going to have to go Athens.
I'm going to go Rome, just because of Assassin's Creed. In Star Wars.
You know, Assassin's Creed has been to nearly every single country that is on that.
Yeah, but hasn't been to Alderaan. Pick a country from South America. We have Argentina. We have Brazil. We have Peru. I'm in a lagoon. We have Colombia. We have Chile. Put a jacket on.
Oh my God.
And Ecuador.
Could you be any more white?
Sorry, we have Ecuador, which is a related cousin of Equawindo.
Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna go Peru because I just want to see the ruins there, the Mayan ruins. Not just that, but I need to. Does that make sense?
Let's see. Ooh. Ecuador. Maybe Ecuador. Oh, I'm going Peru. Let's see how we go. Okay, now we get to choose an African country. We've got Morocco. We've got South Africa, which is similar to North Africa. We have Ghana, Madagascar.
You know, North Africa is a continent,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I do know that.
Okay,
Africa,
I'm just checking.
I'm gonna leave that there. You know, Ghana.
Technically, it's a beautiful place. Apparently,
Yes.
I hear it's a beautiful country. It's just very unsafe.
Yes.
To go.
Like highway
From what I
driving.
read.
I've seen documentaries on that. And it's crazy. So we've got Madagascar. I am King Julian. Egypt, if you like pyramids. And Kenya. You know, can you go there sometime? Okie dokie. So, I'm gonna go... I'm gonna go Egypt.
Oh, apparently Ghana's now safe to go for Australians. You just need to exercise a high degree of caution along the northern border with Burkina Faso.
Okay, there we go.
Egypt for me, fam.
And lastly, choose a random destination. We have Hong Kong. We have the winner is Sydney, Berlin. I like climbing walls. Honolulu. Welcome to Honolulu. Seoul. You got Seoul. Istanbul.
Honolulu, thanks.
Noble. Very noble. Okay. Do I go Sydney? No, we don't want to go Sydney. Do we go Sydney? Do we go Sydney?
Your choice.
You know, see, I keep hearing about Korea and the DMZ.
Choose it. No
So-
one. It's you. Go for it.
I might go Seoul.
You go, girl. What did you get?
Whoa, where it all began.
Tatooine.
Yes.
Oh my god, how did I guess that?
Yeah, you have the same homeworld as Anakin Crybaby and Luke Skywalker.
I'm from the same planet as my husband. I share the same homeworld as Zarge Ventress and Darth Maul. I'm
Woohoo.
Dathomir.
You're from Dathomir, sweet.
Yes.
Yes, I'm from Tatooine, where there's plenty of
Okay,
sandwiches.
here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
The only thing I want to say in today's weekly news is if you have not yet registered for the through the Red Cross, if you're in a fire zone, please do that. Link is in the description. It is register.redcross.org.au. And that's pretty much all I've got to say for that.
Yep.
Oh,
Also too, with Red Cross, the
donate blood if you can.
donate blood because stocks are running low.
We're actually going to go within the
Yeah.
next couple of weeks. So.
And yeah, because there's a few, like if you're a type O, they're in need of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're
Universal donor.
universal donor. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So before I get into today's topic, what I want to say is that if you have any information regarding any criminal activity or you just want to report something that does not feel right, please contact Crime Stoppers. It's all anonymous unless you decide to be identified, and you can do that at crimestoppers.com.au or .com if you're in the US, or in Australia by calling 1-800-333-000. And this is an independent, non-for-profit organisation. It's a global network, and if you find yourself able to donate, please do.
Yes, and also too, for the people out there who are not familiar with emergency contact details in Australia,
It's triple
it's 000. But interesting fact, more commonly people dial 911
I can't imagine
because
why.
of the movies and TV series primarily being out of America. So people are more familiar with 911.
And it
So now
redirects.
Australia redirects to 000 because they know that it's coming from an American line. So there you go, a little piece of trivia on that.
So, references for today's topic, there were several 60-minute segments that we're going to use and play audio clips from. There's a ton of news recaps that you can watch on YouTube, and I specifically really used the Netflix documentary on this. So what I want to ask you, good sir, and everyone else, is what do you know, what do you recall about the case of Keli and Tegan Lane?
Nothing.
Okay, so you don't remember it.
No.
So, although this is one of the most infamous cases in Australia, it's likened to the Australian version of Casey and Kaylee Anthony. Even though it's so big, you can't really find that much of it on it, besides the Netflix documentary and 60 Minutes coverage and Australian news circuits. But once I start talking, you're going to remember what I'm talking about.
No.
All I have for you is water polo player.
Yeah, I think it's starting to ring a bell, sort of.
So, what do you know now that I've told you?
Oh, no, just roll with it. Just roll with it.
So, this case is made up of two people, and it's very confusing in that someone was charged for murder, even though there's no body, no murder weapon, no evidence.
Okay. This
Right?
is
I personally agree with the decision, not that they need my approval, that was carried out, because to me it makes sense. But I would like other people to tell me what they think, and please interrupt me, good sir, and tell me what you think as we go through.
Yeah, because I think, probably one of the biggest ones that hit Australia was the whole "a dingo's got my baby."
We'll get to that. Yeah,
That one is the one that I kind of remember when everyone says, "Oh, what's the biggest one?" Or the
Ivan Milat stuff.
Port Arthur. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that is the one that kind of I'm like when someone asks that question, I'm always like, "Yeah, Port Arthur." That was the big one.
Okay, not today's topic.
Not today's topic.
Dive into it too much.
The chicken is back to the coop.
So, Keli Lane is the mother of Tegan Lane. And we're going to get into about how that all kind of happened. So, Keli is the mother, Tegan is the daughter. So, Keli Lane, she is currently serving time in the Silverwater Women's Correctional Facility. And she reached out to ABC Four Corners investigative reporter, Caro Meldrum. I'm so sorry, I've forgotten your hyphenated name. Caro Meldrum something. And she reached out because she believes, and she said that she was wrongly accused by the police of the murder of her baby in 1996. So her daughter would be between about 20 to 22 now. She was between 20 to 21 when I wrote these notes about a year ago, so I'd say 21 to 22 now. And she's hoping that the people who took her baby will come forward so she can tell the world that she did not harm her baby, and she wants to clear her name because she was found guilty of murdering her baby Tegan. So the main basic facts are that she says she gave him to this guy called Andrew Morris, or Norris, who is the baby's biological father. The basic rundown is police searched for him but concluded he never existed. She says that Andrew's mother was also there in the hospital when she handed Tegan over, but either Andrew or his mother never came forward. His girlfriend Mel was also there because she claimed that she had an affair with Andrew during this time when Andrew was in a relationship with Mel, and she was happy to take the child on as her own. Again, this Mel has never been found, nor has she come forward. Keli herself has been... See, the trouble with her is she is a compulsive liar. So whatever comes out of her mouth, you have in your back of your head that this is a lie. This is an excuse. This is not real. So she's very heavily criticised for all the lies that she has told. Currently she's halfway through her sentence, and while she accepts that she lies, she likes to say, where is the evidence that I'm lying? Where's the evidence that Tegan is dead? So I guess we're going to have to go back way back to the early to late 90s when this all sort of started to happen. And this is what we're going to talk about, of how it would have appeared for a woman who... I'm not slut shaming anyone. I don't care. If you go out and you do things, that's completely up to you. Just stay safe. You know what I mean? However, in the early to late 90s, especially being a female, being viewed and labelled as promiscuous, a liar, and having multiple pregnancies, and that back in its time was a massive burden for not only you to bear, but for your family to have to bear, and the shame that come with that. I'm not saying that it was justified or warranted. I'm just saying we know how sexist the 80s and 90s were. So Miss Keli Lane grew up in Manly, which is considered a more country, laid-back, beachy town in Sydney or New South Wales. Near Sydney, I should say, of New South Wales. So in this town, everybody knows everyone gossips. So as a kid, you learn to keep secrets. Keli was a very, very good, kind of gifted athlete, sports player. She was very strong, very robust. Her family was very well known and very well respected in the community. They were both coaches of local sports organisations. Her dad was a local police officer. Her mother was the manager of a lot of local sporting teams, especially the ones that she played on herself. A lot of her friends say that people were attracted to her, so she had a lot of guys that came up to her. So it wasn't that she was sleeping around in one-night stand hookups, not that I'm saying that that's shameful, but they said that she jumped from relationship to relationship. But boys were very scared of her dad because he was a police officer, but they were terrified of her mother because she's very tough and she came across as very, very strict. So you can imagine it's the 90s. Your dad is who he is, your mother is who they are. Communication and talking and open conversation is not very much a priority in that family. It's all about looks and your facade that you put out there. However, she says, and everyone says, that her family were insanely protective. And then you're going to say to me, well, how did they not notice that their daughter was pregnant?
How did they notice that their daughter was not pregnant?
How did they not notice that their daughter was pregnant, right?
How did they not notice?
And this is a shocker because it's something that I did not realise until I started researching her case. And I'm not shaming her in any way whatsoever. But it turns out that she was pregnant at least 5 times during the 90s. The first time when she was 17 in 92.
Jeez.
Please ignore the next door neighbour's dog. The second time in 1994 when she was 18. Like, can you imagine how hard that is? In 95 at 19, in 96 at 21, and 99 at 24.
That's crazy.
So her first 2 pregnancies when she was 17 and 18, she had terminated successfully.
Far out.
The other 3 resulted in live births. So you have pregnancy 1 terminated, pregnancy 2, and this is not shaming, I'm just establishing a timeline because it's impertinent to the story. Pregnancy 1 terminated, pregnancy 2 terminated, pregnancy 3 live birth, pregnancy 4 Tegan, pregnancy 5 live birth.
Yeah.
Obviously Tegan was a live birth. So pregnancies 3 and 4 resulted in adoptions. So everyone reasons that her parents were either oblivious or tried to appear to be oblivious because they didn't want to lose their social standing. Yep. And they didn't want their daughter's promiscuity to impact their lives and their standing within their community because, like I said, they're very outside projection, pillars of the community, if you will. So her parents said that she disguised 4 out of the 5 pregnancies that she's had.
I don't know how you do that, but...
Her mother reasons that at the time it was not fashion to wear tight clothing, and because of her being a sports athlete, I'm so sorry, that's my clothes rubbing against the chair. Because of she never wore tight clothing. She always wore a tracksuit, obviously because she was a sports player. Most of the time, because of all her sporting commitments, that's pretty much all that she had and all that she wore. So her mother is very, very... So when it got to the hard conversations that Caro was having with her parents in her parents' home, her dad was very... Like, he's a dad, and you can tell that she's a dad's girl. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, like, he went to her box of trophies that they keep in their living room and was, like, going through, and he was talking about... she got this for this and this is this and, she never wore them. It wasn't like she was a show-off or anything like that. And she was like a quiet achiever. So her dad's rolling through all of her boxes of trophies and medals. And her mum's like rolling her eyes, like visibly rolling her head and her eyes, shaking her head. And like, oh my God, just stop. You know what I mean? So when asked about Tegan's whereabouts... Keli's mother and dad said they have no idea where Tegan could be, and her mother Sandra said, Keli's mother, Tegan's grandmother, her name's Sandra, and she says she might even be overseas. So in the first episode of the documentary, they literally went through the ringer and traced down every boyfriend Tegan had ever had.
Jeez.
So they go back to her first serious boyfriend. His name's Aaron Tyak. And they were together in the early 90s for quite a long while. And from what I understand, she was pregnant the first 2 times with Aaron while they were together in high school. He says that she could have had any guy that she wanted. Pretty much like every girl wanted to be her. Every guy wanted to be with her. One day while they were sitting in her room, she told him that they needed to talk. And she told him that he was pregnant. And so he did the typical guy thing and asked, instead of like, well, I guess you're a kid, so whatever. But you're on the pill, so how did this happen?
Yeah.
So they were presented with 2 options. Either keep the baby or terminate the pregnancy. Because at this stage, keep in mind, they're 17. So they don't really have much to go on to support said baby. So, like, good on them for making an adult decision. I can't imagine being in that situation. I hate to be that person that's like, if you can't handle a baby, don't be having sex. But if you're going to do that, just be protected, everyone. Not that I'm saying anyone is here listening to relationship advice. So she didn't want to, and she was very emotionally torn. She was very distraught over it, but she knew that they didn't have another choice. So very secretly, he took her out to the ferry to shuttle her to Sydney, and he waited for her to come back. He described her as being very devastated, and she was absolutely shattered. So they ended up asking her mother, Sandy, about this first pregnancy. And then so her body language is very standoffish again. And then so Caro asked her, do you know what happened in this year? And she's like, for anyone who's listening, like, she vehemently, like, shakes her head, and you're like, shit, are you alright? You're going to give yourself whiplash. She's really aggro. And then she goes to Caro, are we hashing out every little detail?
So she gets really worked up.
And Caro was like, I wanted to know what forces shaped her and what was the starting point. And so around the time that she and Aaron broke up, she had a second termination. So she was in between relationships 1 and 2. He didn't know about it, but when he found out later on, years down the track, when all this started to come to light, he was very shocked and felt horrible. This was a very late term abortion at 20 weeks. So it was a 2-stage procedure, which means that basically at this stage it's very, very invasive. You can imagine how hard that must have been, like, carrying a baby for 20 weeks and then, like, that's very late turn. Not that I'm saying anyone at that stage has no right to decide to terminate, but I'm just saying. However, the really hardest thing here is that she did not receive any counselling. So there's a bit of a mix-up there whether she was asked to be counselled or not, or if counselling was actually an option for her. And keep in mind, this poor girl's 18 years old. So imagine how emotionally scarring that would be.
Pretty bad. Pretty scarring.
So a few days later, Caro gets back in contact with Keli, and she says that, obviously and rightly so, this whole experience was very traumatic, and I know that we can all believe that. She said that she was physically very sick. She said she wasn't offered counselling and she didn't seek out any services, and that she, quote unquote, just got on with things. So I mentioned before that she's a water polo player. At this stage, Keli wasn't very heavily into water polo, and that's going to come into the fact of what happens with Tegan and baby number 4. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with water polo, I was almost drafted in a team, and I feel very, very proud about that. But the idea is you have to be a very strong swimmer. Even though you're not doing much swimming, you have to be physically strong, because it's a very rough, taxing sport. You come out of there literally scratched like you've been through a ring with a lion, and your clothes tear, people elbow you. It's, you know how Shane Dawson makes that analogy with ducks? Up top, above the pool, everything looks fine. Underneath, it's a war zone.
Yeah.
Right? So physically, it's a very, very physical sport. So imagine being pregnant, let alone heavily pregnant.
Yeah, that's pretty
and
tough.
competing in that. All it takes is one kick to the gut, which happens normally underwater. And, anything could happen. So her coach says that she wasn't a skilled player, but she had grit and determination, and that's what landed her a spot on the teams. Her former Australian coach, who is a female, said that they played dirty and they partied even harder. So imagine you're getting into these situations, you're pregnant, but you're still drinking.
Yeah.
So she specifically remembers Keli wrapping a towel around her waist and then getting in the pool.
Okay.
Right? When she was heavily pregnant, looking back, they noticed that she would have a towel or a rope. She would sit to the edge of her pool, so you know how you sit with your feet in? She would dig down, take the towel or the robe off, and then slowly let herself into the water. You know how you lean in off the ledge of the pool to slide in? That's what she would do. And pregnancy is hard work, right? I've never been pregnant, so I can't imagine. But from what I hear, pregnancy is hard work. You're very tired, especially very, very late stages of pregnancy, right? So imagine competing in a competitive sport.
That's going to take a toll.
Heavily pregnant, right? So apparently there was a lot of gossip circulating around the teammates and some of the staff saying that she might have been pregnant. Other teams that they competed with and coaches and people were talking. So this woman, one day she was standing on, she's a coach, like I said, and she has, she's a mum, she's got kids of her own, so she knows what childbirth is like. She knows how a woman carries when she is pregnant, right? And so she got a side-on look of Keli, because you know how you face the pool, because you're a coach and you're getting into the pool, you're facing the pool, so she's got a side-on look, so she's turned her head to the left or the right. She's got a side-on look of Keli, who was so obviously pregnant, and by her estimation, minimum 6 months along. And she's getting in the pool training every day.
Jeez.
So my question here is, if it was such, town gossip, how did this not get back to her parents? If her parents, her mother was the manager of the team, how did her mother not get wind of this?
Maybe everyone else didn't want to get in trouble.
And I guess more importantly is, do her parents have responsibility in this situation? Or is Keli the one responsible and the one who has to step up and deal with this appropriately? Or should she kind of be controlled by her parents?
I don't know, it's a 50-50. In some way, I suppose the parent should be at least observant enough to know that something's going on and try and offer assistance. So clearly, if someone's trying to hide something, something's going on.
I'm not trying to reason and say I know everything, but when I was a teenager and I was going through year 12, and we know that year 12 was a very stressful time, and TMI for anyone who's kind of not into this, but if I was a week late, right, and I'd never held hands with a boy, I'd never kissed a boy, if I was a week late, it was a big fucking deal.
And some people will freak out over that, apparently. Right?
And it's and you laugh because what else is there to do? And your mother would be like, my mother would be like, oh, I'm going to get you a test. And it's test me. I know there's nothing there. And then the fucking 17-year-old virgin of me is like, shit, what if I'm the next Virgin Mary? Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't take away from such a serious case. But I get what it's like. So what I'm saying is, I had a very strict tiger parent mother, hovercraft parent mother, right? Helicopter parent. And my mother knew what was happening with my body and kept track, let alone someone such as Sandra, is what I'm trying to establish here. And also, it's a water sport. There are things and parameters you have to put in place to not during that time of the month, all right? So apparently this coach, who again is a mother herself, spoke to the head coach and told him that, look, she's pregnant, she obviously should not be playing. And so he said that he had spoken to Keli. So this guy's passed away since. And he said, so we only have the hearsay of what this female coach has said about the head coach. And he said that he had spoken to Keli and that Keli had said that she was not pregnant. Oh, sorry, this is a different coach. This guy's still alive, right? So the ABC reporter, Caro, she reaches out to this head coach. His name is Bruce Falston. And he told them that he had no recollection of this conversation with this coach, whose name was Anne Bain. And now he has since passed away. So sorry, they did manage to reach out to him before he passed away. So if everyone knew, right, if it was being spoken about with the coaches, and Keli's mother, again, was a manager for New South Wales, how did she ever not hear this gossip? So it rolls around to March of 1995, and Keli's playing in the final, 9 months pregnant.
Great.
So they lose, and they go to a pub to have a drink. At 9 p.m, Keli disappears.
Rightio.
She had gone into labour right there in the pub.
Far out.
So she travels 1.2 kilometres from the Bridge Hotel to the Balmain Hospital. She was admitted at 9:40 p.m. by her boyfriend, who she says turned around and left, never to be seen again. Nobody knows who he is. She told staff that she was up to date with the pregnancy and had an obstetrician in Perth, and that she was just visiting in Sydney for 3 weeks. And I'm sorry, but I'm not a medical professional, but I can just, as a medical professional, I don't know anyone who would recommend you travelling at 9 months. Pretty much full term. Sorry, but no. You're actually legally not allowed to board a plane.
No.
Your OBGYN would, you can't even drive that far unless it is to deliver, let alone to be like, I'm here for 3 weeks and we just came from Perth. No, that's not what you do, but okay. So what are you going to do? So she was transferred to the King George V Hospital for Mothers and Babies, and she delivered a healthy baby. So at this point, the teammates are at the pub and they realise that she's missing, and they begin to start ringing hospitals.
Jeez.
Because they know she's pregnant. So they're like, let's see if we can find out where she's given birth. So they're ringing hospitals, and one hospital said that they had admitted her and that she had given birth.
Oh, jeez.
Right? But again, no one knows anything, right? So on top of this, 2 days after giving birth, it's her 20th birthday. I don't know about you, but if you had a daughter and it was her 20th birthday, wouldn't you be trying to reach her?
You would be.
Wouldn't you be trying to get in contact with her?
You would be.
Her 20th birthday? So her parents are like, we have no idea where she is. We had no idea. Where did you think she was? Right? So Keli, she leaves the hospital on a day pass. Right? So she goes out, parties with her friends, and then she comes back to the hospital the next morning. And so Kara says this to her mother. And do you know what Sandy has to say about it? It shows her strength of character, that she dealt with it, how she saw fit to deal with it. And this was the first time she's hearing any of this day pass stuff. So it was really hard work for the reporters, but they were able to go through medical records, and they found that she gave a false address in Perth, and that she listed that her parents lived in Perth, and that she'd been in a de facto relationship with a guy. She said that she didn't have any support in Sydney, so she decided to put the baby up for adoption. And what we know about adoption is that it does take months to organise. So she meets with adoptive parents, and staff reported her as seeming very traumatised. So when she was asked about this, she said, look, I didn't set out to have this happen over and over, but she says that it is fault on her part. She said that between pregnancies, she did drink regularly, and that's obviously going to interfere with your contraceptive medication. So that's essentially why the pill wasn't very effective for her. And she never made her partners wear protection. So this is where the case that we're going to talk about starts. So to set the scene, it's 1996. And she's pregnant with baby Tegan, and this is her fourth known pregnancy. So one of her teammates remembers her, like I said, walking over to the side of the pool, lowering herself in, getting out of the bathrobe instead of diving in like you're going to, right? Like everybody else. So the rumour mill started churning, and everyone starts gossiping that, oh my God, Keli may be pregnant again. So the teammates, because they're nasty snitches, would put their goggles on and look underwater. And you can see, you can tell a woman, you can tell when a woman is carrying. I'm not saying it's okay to go up to a woman and say, oh, you're pregnant, are you pregnant? And ask if they're pregnant. But I'm saying it's very obvious. To them it was very obvious that she was heavily pregnant. So Keli says that nobody at this stage asked her if she was pregnant, and she did not want to push that responsibility onto them. After that, her teammates say that they can't recall her playing a game pregnant. So they play this game. 2 weeks later, when they see her again after winter break, she did not appear to be pregnant.
Right.
So in 1999, we fast track, right? So we jump ahead 3 years. She gives birth to a boy who she gives up for adoption. And this is where shit starts to hit the fan. And there's this one guy here who, his name's John, and he's the one who broke this case. So during the adoption process that she went through with this baby boy through Anglicare, she denied that she had any previous children. She denied the 1996 pregnancy before Tegan, which was the first baby she gave up for adoption. She denied Tegan, right? She said that she had not been pregnant before. She'd never blah, blah, blah. So they try to contact her on her mobile. She answers and she pretends not to hear them. She hangs up and she switches off the phone because they're asking her and saying, hey, we're just trying to track, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, I can't hear you. Oh, this phone. Click off. Power off. So they ended up finding out that the addresses did not exist. Ultimately, they said that she had said on the documentation that the father of this baby resided in London.
Okay. Strange.
So basically, because nothing was adding up, the original fostering agreement with the Anglicare had lapsed, and the agency could not contact her to renew it. So by law, Anglicare was obliged to hand over the baby to the Department of Community Services. So one employee of this department, as I said, his name is John Borovnik, and he really made, the existence of Tegan known.
Yeah.
In his words, when he was like the first opening shots of him being interviewed, he says that she's a psychopath, a narcissist, and she knew how to play the victim very well. And can I just say, it is in my unprofessional opinion that I reckon if anyone knows this story well, it's this guy, John. Right? So, John's just come back from leave. And so you're John, and I hand you a case file, and I say, this is an easy case.
Okay.
This poor dude had no idea what he was getting into. Literally, he's back from his holiday. And then so he's like, okay, it should be easy to chase up. So he starts calling and making inquiries about Keli. So he rings Ryde Hospital. And one of the staff says, John, did you know that she was here in 1997 at 40 weeks pregnant? And he's like, what? So he starts to call adoption branches. And one caseworker says, oh, do you mean the 95 baby? So the caseworker knew about the 95 baby that was adopted out first, but he knew nothing about Tegan, right? So he does some more digging, and he finds out that Tegan's birth was never registered with the registrar at the general's office. And to me, that's highly illegal because I thought the hospital was supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Because you give birth, you eventually tell them the name of said baby. they report all of that, and then I thought the register has to stamp it in their office, and that's what your birth certificate is, right?
Yep.
So how that happened, I don't understand. If someone does know, please let me know. I could be talking major shit, but I thought that the hospital had to lodge all that information.
Yep.
Right? And you get mailed your child's birth certificate. But I don't know. Or you have to go pick it up. So it had been years at this point since Tegan was missing. So John gets in contact with the Department of Health and he receives a letter by fax, from the Auburn Hospital saying that baby Tegan was delivered on the 12th of September in 1996 by Keli. Around midday on the 14th of September 1996, she leaves the hospital with Tegan, and hours later she went home without the baby.
Jeez.
She told hospital staff that she had a wedding to go to. So the coppers do as coppers do, and they obtain a copy of the wedding footage at the church.
Okay.
And you don't even need to hear the commentary that's plastered over this, but this woman, she doesn't even carry herself like she'd just given birth. She's there, she's carefree, she's there just enjoying her friend's wedding. She's bloody wearing white. Do you know what happens to your body after you've delivered?
You're just...
Downstairs
gone.
Is a bloody mess.
She's wearing white.
Right? And she's wearing white. And so she's happy, she's celebrating her friend's wedding, and so John digs, right? And he rings her at her work, because at this stage she was a sports teacher at school, right? Because that's what you do when you're an off-brand athlete in Australia. And he asked her outright, did you deliver a live baby girl on the 12th of September in 1996 at Auburn Hospital? And she answered no.
Okay.
And when Kara asked her about why, she said that why she answered no, she said, because I felt like I was being attacked.
Right.
So Keli pretty much recounts that it was very awful and very difficult to hand over Tegan to Andrew, to his girlfriend, and to Andrew's mother. She said that she wanted to take Tegan home, but there was no way that she could be the parent that she wanted to be. And that there was no way, whether intentional or not, that she could have harmed Tegan. So it's now November of 1999, and the case is handed over to the Manly Police by John, the caseworker.
Now, Manly's in Sydney, just in case people from America were wondering.
Sorry. I thought I said that to begin with. I
No,
might have forgotten. I'm so sorry.
All good.
It's basically like, if you tell people you're from Manly, you are either the best lifeguard,
yep,
the best surfer, or the best beach person anyone has known. That's the standing of Manly. If you tell people that you're from Manly, people listen to what you have to say.
Or a really good rugby player.
That's it. That's the other one.
Yeah.
What's the Manly team there? What are they?
Manly Sea Eagles.
That's it, the Eagles. My bad. So, John hands over to the police because at this point she's been missing for 3 years, right? There's nothing more that he can do. He's got all the information he can grab. So, Tegan's missing for 3 years. The Manly Police fell through. I'm just going to tell you that in advance. The detective assigned to the case, Detective Kehoe, he knew Keli's dad well, because, as I said, her dad was a police officer and he retired in 95. So because Kehoe knew her dad, that's a massive conflict of interest, right? And technically, because her father had ties to the Manly Police Station, the case file should have been sent to another station, not the Manly Police Station.
Yeah.
And also along this time, we're going to get into it later, but there was a lot of internal affairs had to be called into that police station because there was a lot of, what's that word I'm looking for? That word that starts with C, when police are being paid off and they're turning a blind eye. What's
Corruption.
that word? That's the word. Thank you very much. I'm an absolute idiot. So the case is handed over. Keli hightails it to Europe.
Just gone.
Right? And a proper initial investigation was never conducted. So this Detective Keogh, he did not want to be interviewed on camera. And he told the reporter that he operated unbiasedly and that other things were going on at the Manly Police Station at that point in time. And what I'm going to tell you next is a little sus, because I want you to tell me who you think it is that's handing over this stuff in the next minute that I'm going to tell you. All right?
Yeah.
So Caro gets emailed a gift, in quotation marks, because someone anonymously wants to give her a USB that ended up containing all the affidavits, sworn statements, and reports. Personally, they did it real anonymously, right? And they really played it up for the camera.
Yeah.
I personally think it was Detective Keogh.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure. Right? This is my opinion. This is not fact. I'm allowed to, don't sue me because I'm allowed to state my opinion. But I personally think it was Detective Keogh, but I am most likely wrong, but whatever. So it ended up being 2 USBs. All of the data was deleted and it needed to be recovered.
Right.
So this person said that they were handing over this data because they wanted the story to be told in its entirety. So the girls, they were investigative reporters, do some data recovery, and they found more than 20,000 files across these USBs. It included confidential police documents regarding the case. They also found internal police documents called Integrity Commission files. Because, like I said, at the time of the investigation, there was a massive, corruption investigation that was occurring at the Manly Police Station. And this actually impacted a lot of cases that were happening during that time in that area of the Northern Beaches. So Matthew Kehoe was not suspected of being corrupt, but he was kind of like in the middle and surrounded by all the shitstorm that was brewing, right? So all in all, they're able to deduce that 6 officers were charged with drug trafficking, bribery, and theft.
Jeez.
So the reporters approach Keogh again, and with what they know, and he sends them an email saying, "I remember returning to the office to find computers disconnected, evidence and case files all in a massive pile in the room."
That's weird.
Because that's what you do. You have to literally harvest everything. So he said that he was made aware that several documents and videotapes were removed from the case files and briefs, but he's unable to say if the Keli Lane brief was tampered with. So we jump forward to August of 2006, and this is where shit goes from Kelly's coasting, she's gotten away with it, to shit has well and truly hit the fan.
Big time.
August 2006. Keli gets pregnant for what is known to be the 6th time, and she's 25 years of age. And she decides that she wants to keep this baby, so she straight away tells friends and family and acts like it's her first pregnancy. Her dad is shocked because he still thinks that at 25 years of age, she's still very young. She was unmarried at the time, so they were worried like, oh, her dad being her dad, her mum being her mum, is there going to be kind of the whole wedlock situation, right? Because that was very big in the 90s.
Yeah.
The term thrown around at the time was bastard. Not that I'm saying it's right or wrong. Who fucking cares? You know what I mean? Whenever you have a baby in your relationship, as long as you're in a healthy, happy relationship and you're not bringing your baby into unhealthy bullshit. So they ask her parents and they're like, oh, we wouldn't have cared that she wasn't pregnant. We're just so worried that she was so young. She's fucking 25.
Yeah,
that's a different story. So Dr. James Ferry, he was the OBGYN for this baby number 6. And we don't know, so I should mention, I just want to say this now, the names of her husband that she ended up marrying that I'm going to talk about later, and the names of this 6th child are known, but they've been redacted. So that way no one can harass them, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Right? So they do exist, but for their own personal privacy, their names are not out there. So Dr. James Ferry's records say that Keli visited his offices 10 times, and he describes a patient that visits 10 times as a very compliant, very good patient. So they had all of her Medicare records from the early 90s with all of her previous pregnancies, right? Dating back to her first. And they found out that during all of her previous pregnancies, she didn't even see a doctor once.
Far out.
So they pretty much went to him and he was like, oh, this is a very compliant, good patient on top of everything. And then so Caro has the Medicare charges.
Yeah.
And she was like, look, I don't understand how you can go from not seeing a doctor once to, seeing a doctor for very, very regularly, the recommended amount. And he's like, it's almost like you're describing two different people to me. Like you shouldn't appear to, okay. And so in February of 2001, a whole year after baby Tegan had gone missing, so we jump back a little bit, I guess, in the documentary. So we jump back to 2001 in February. And Detective Keogh had asked Keli to come down to Manly Police Station. And he questions Keli over Tegan's whereabouts and said that she was pretty much there to clear up the situation, if you will. So I have, moving forward, a lot of audio that I'm going to play you. So I apologise if it's choppy because I did try to edit it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
So please forgive me if it's weird, but this is the first police interview in 2001.
In your words, can you just explain to us the circumstances of when the child was born and what happened subsequent to that?
After a brief affair with the father of the child, I gave birth. We made an arrangement that he would come and take custody of Tegan, as I was unable to take care of her myself.
So she told police that she and the father had an affair, and he took Tegan into his care because she couldn't care for the baby. Alright, they're the main takeaways.
Points to take away
from that. So I'm just going to speed forward a little bit to the next bit.
During her first interview...
Whoa, shit, that should not have been there. My bad.
Andrew Morris.
The natural father of the child is Andrew Morris, is that correct?
That's correct.
So she says that the guy's name is Andrew Morris.
Oh.
Morris. She says that she didn't have an address for Andrew. She did not have any legal representation in this interview with the police. And her dad was like, oh, I'm a police officer. I know they must have blindsided her and, hit her hard and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But her position, just to describe it to you, so she's leaning over the table, holding, how some people hold their elbows. She's got her sunglasses on and her head is pointed 45 degrees, resting on her shoulder. And she's very laid back, carefree, but she's also kind of rocking very subtly.
Yeah.
And the way she's looking, the superiority, body language, where her head's up and she's looking down, and you can tell she's so very obviously doesn't want to be there. She's very uncomfortable. She's very standoffish.
Yeah.
So in April of 2001, she gave birth to a baby girl, and she says that she realised she should have been honest from the start. So after being dormant for 17 months, a new detective takes over the case. His name's Detective Gort. And this is where a thorough investigation had kind of commenced. And because he's not from Manly, he had outside... he was a pair of fresh eyes, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah.
So he operated completely outside of the town, the influence of the family, and everything. So he was the best thing that had happened to this case. So he arranges a formal interview with Keli, and because of the large kind of chunk of time between this first casual interview with Kehoe and Gort, she forgot what she had kind of said in the first interview, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So in this 2003 police interview, this is...
Isn't sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Do you know the father of the child's name?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
Andrew Norris.
Norris?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think Keli understands?
So now it's Andrew Norris.
Yeah, not Andrew Morris.
Norris with an N for, what's the...
Nelly. November.
That's it. Not Morris with the M for Mike.
Yeah.
So Gort openly gave Keli the opportunity to come clean and said that if she was telling any lies for whatever reason, he was giving her an out to admit them. Now, this is 1 minute and 17 seconds long, but I promise it's worth every single second.
Opportunity now, if you've been telling us some lies, for whatever reason, if you know where the child is or what happened to the child, it's your opportunity to tell us now. Do you want to tell me anything?
So, between him asking her, and her saying no, there's a 1 minute 4 second pause. If you watch that footage, you can tell she's having an inner battle with herself. You can tell she's scared because once she admits something, shit's going to hit the fan.
Yep.
Right? And it's going to come back to bite her on the ass. So, then the detective asks if she killed Tegan, and she yells, No, I did not. I did not do anything like that. I will play that for you now. Well, the next one. Oh, sorry. Is that the... That's the incorrect one. Sorry. Oh, God.
Did you kill the child?
No, I did not. I did not do anything like that.
Someone else.
No.
Well, Kelly, like I said, I'm going to have to make a lot of inquiries here. I'm going to have to go.
Please don't.
It's going to go through the coroner's court. There'll be a coroner's court hearing in relation to it. Right? That's why I say to you now, if there's something you're not telling us, now is the time to tell us.
I don't understand how. Can we stop the tape? Can I speak without the tape on?
I'd rather you do it on the tape.
Okay, I don't understand how you're gonna go and speak with my parents or people like that who have no idea what you're gonna be talking about. This is between me and Andrew. He said it would be a great idea. He told me not to connect him.
Have you watched those police?
Oh, far out. Sorry. Great timing.
Trigger warning.
So, what's your take on that?
She's making it up as she goes along. That's what I feel like. She's just talking crap. She's trying to cover for what she's actually done. So she's just...
Do you know what I take from that? I know what it's like to have to hide shit from your parents, right? Not that I ever did anything bad. But I get how she immediately was like in this teenager brain of, don't talk to my parents. You know, they're not going to have any idea what you're talking about. Please don't involve them.
She doesn't want to get, in trouble.
Yeah, right? So we fast forward to Caro interviewing, I guess, Keli, I guess you could say today, except it's not today, it was about a year and a bit ago. So she says that she met Andrew at the town hall hotel. They drank, they played some pool, they flirted. He was with a group of other friends. One guy was called Dipper. So the night goes on and continues, and then Andrew takes her back to his place, and apparently it was a 2-minute walk from the pub to his place. So they cross a bottle shop and another pub on the way over. And Carrie says, look, we carried out this affair while Andrew was allegedly with Mel for several months. And we did it in his unit in Balmain.
Yeah.
So Detective Gort keeps pressing her to lead him to Andrew's unit. And they eventually went, they just drove around for hours. That's what they would do. And one day she points out this unit, which is in a block, right? Kind of like it's not a townhouse, but you know when you have more like units stacked on one another. Not kind of like commission housing, but like you would find in St Kilda, right?
Yeah.
Kind of more where backpackers would kind of stay, right?
Yeah.
So she points out the unit in this block of units and says, that looks familiar. And so she recalled that he was in the second apartment on the first floor and that it fronted the street. So his windows looked out onto the main street. And when she was on the phone with Caro during this documentary, she says that now more than ever, she's completely certain that that's the right apartment block.
Yeah.
So back then, when the police went and they did their investigations, they said that they couldn't find Andrew Morris or Norris at that apartment block at the time Keli said that the affair had occurred. So it took a while for the Manly police to obtain the rental records. So you can imagine between 95 and 2003, that's a long hop, skip and jump away from each other, right? So apparently all the documents prior to the 20th of December 1995 had been destroyed because law is once it's 7 years have passed, you don't need them anymore. And for a lot of companies, especially for real estate agencies, that's a lot of documentation. You don't necessarily think that you're going to need them. So, it's quite common for paper trails to be destroyed after 7 years because that's also part of the confidentiality. So police and the reporters were interested in... So there are 6 units, right? So there's an underground... Not underground, but... so the ground level is like a car parky area and some stairs.
Yep.
And then it's the first level, second level, third level. And so they kind of go through... There are 6 units all in total that he could have possibly been in, if that makes sense. So... For some reason, the reporters got their hands on these records and they obtained them. So they started to call people based on the rent agreements. So some numbers were still connected. Some people, they had names and they were able to chase them up with other methods and means. Some phone numbers didn't exist anymore, so they're just going through.
Yeah.
Because some people had sadly passed away. People had changed their numbers. However, one family, a brother and a sister, could be reached, and they lived at the top unit, unit number 19. And then the bottom left unit, unit 3, a man named Bill had rented, but that wasn't the guy.
Yeah.
Then there were 2 brothers up in unit 11 on the second level on the left, and that wasn't them. And then unit 20 at the top left, 2 girls had lived there, and you know that's not right. So unit 10, smack bang in the middle, on the right, a guy moved out at the end of September of 1995. And that's the unit that Keli had pointed out. So it's still a mystery who was there before this guy. His identity is still anonymous. And under oath, the guy who rented that apartment says that he began living in the unit in late December of 95. So he essentially was the leasee after the person that Keli said lived in that apartment block. So apparently the whole block was canvassed by Detective Gort twice and by a homicide squad. The tenancy contracts are made under the assumption that people who sign them are the ones that are going to be living in that property, right? So whether it's legal or not, depending on the state you're in, that does not stop people from subletting or the agreement being under one person's name but someone else living under there, right? So it's like me saying, I'm going to rent an apartment, but you can live in it.
Yeah.
So I'm the one fitting the bill, it's under my name, but I'm not the one living there, right? So one witness remembers seeing mail addressed to a Andrew Norris, allegedly. And in their investigation, police showed the tenants a photo of Keli, and they said that nobody who lived there at the time recognised Keli either. And then so Kara was like, but did they get to every single person? And the confidential police files that were handed over anonymously revealed that multiple tenants of the unit block were not approached or interviewed by police detectives. One of these guys is tenant Daryl Henson. And so Kara ends up finding him on good old Facebook, and she reaches out to him and says, hi, Daryl, just wanted to ask if you lived on such and such street in Balmain in such and such time. And he says yes. So they start a video call. And he says that he recalls seeing Keli, and she holds up a photo of Keli, and he says, yes, I saw her in that flat. Then it turns out that Daryl has since moved to New Zealand. And he said, also, what's that clicking noise?
I have no idea.
Okay. So he says, yes, you know, I remember seeing her there, but the police never reached out to me. I remember seeing her leave the apartment complex, walking out of that carport area because he used to work on his car late at nights, and he goes, oh, I saw her there so often, I assumed she was a tenant.
Which is really strange.
So he says that he doesn't recall the guy who lived there, that Keli was allegedly visiting, right? So Detective Gort obtains a warrant to tap Keli's phone in December of 2003, and he records hundreds upon hundreds of phone conversations. So I'm going to play some of that for you now.
Obviously not the hundreds of them.
No. This was I said some of that.
Hello. I've just organised my hand invitation.
Oh, okay.
Can you print off our wedding guest list for me, please?
Yeah.
I was only thinking today, it's your wedding next month. I know.
She hadn't.
Hello?
Hello, Keli. Hello.
I don't know what's wrong with our phone. You can't hear anything, and then
Hello, Keli. Hello.
a message, thanks.
Yeah, Keli, could you ring Richard Gort, please? Thanks.
So, through all this phone transcripting and tapping, they found out that Keli and her now fiance are planning their wedding. Even though all this investigation and questioning is going on, she did not tell a single person in her life about the existence of any of these previous children. And then he's sitting there listening to this wedding plan. She's like, there. So he's listening to these phone calls happening in real time, right?
Yeah.
So he goes and he calls her. And then she acts like there's something wrong with the phone. He says she can't hear him and hangs up and ignores any further calls that Detective Gort tries to make to reach out to her.
That's not good.
So in January of 2004, this bitch finally answers her phone, and the detectives call her into the police station for a third interview, and she agrees, and then she immediately calls a friend asking them to mind a child, and the reason, just listen to this, because, you know, she's got the kid, so she has to make it look legit, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Thursday, I was wondering if you could play with in the morning from about 9 o'clock-ish till about lunchtime. I've got to go and do a dress fitting.
So obviously the child's name has been bleeped out for her own privacy.
Yeah.
So she's telling a friend, asking her to mind her child, because she has to go to a dress fitting from 9 a.m. to midday.
Right.
So I'm going to play 2 tracks now back to back, and then we're going to talk about them, alright?
Do you think a counsellor would help? We could put you in contact with someone if you want to speak.
Oh,
anonymously.
yeah, okay.
After these being filmed from Queenscliff Health Centre, yeah, Richard Galtz asked me to give you a call, wanting to know if we could offer you a service. Right, yeah. I'm in the adult mental health section. Yes.
So, Detective Gort wanted an assessment of Keli Lane, so he tried to get a counsellor on board. But this is what I could gather from as much of a transcript of that third police interview.
The way we're looking at this inquiry, we've got a child who's missing, who we're presuming is not alive now. The matter is obviously going to go before the coroner at this stage because we have a missing child.
Well, it's just going to become a massive issue, isn't it? Everybody's going to know. And my mum and dad, they're not going to let this start. They're not going to want to be near me. Are they? After everything they hear, I guess everything that you've looked into, that's just going to become public fodder. And no one's going to let me stay with my daughter.
No one's going to stay.
What?
So, during this interview, he reminds her that, you know, we're getting ready to go to the coroner's court. And again, she gets upset and says, look, it's going to be a massive issue again. She brings up the fact that she doesn't think her friends and family and her fiancé, that's the name that was beeped out in that second track, won't want to associate with her, and she's very fearful that she's going to lose her daughter. And so she was so concerned and stressed that Detective Gort ended up recommending her get counselling, and so he organises for a counsellor to talk to her. However, the counsellor says that Gort also the double-edged side of this was he also wanted an assessment of Keli. And it was done through the hospital, so the plan was that, this is what the counsellor says, that Keli would tell her story, the police would subpoena the file, and it would be used as evidence in court. Right? So the clinician was a psychiatric nurse, and she ended up taking Keli on. She said that she knew that Keli needed support. She says she doesn't believe that Keli would have harmed Tegan because it wasn't in her nature. She says that Keli lived in this enormous fear of telling her parents. So a mental health professional is going to tell you outright, look, the best way to deal with your fears is to confront them.
Yep.
If you tell your parents,
you're doing,
you know,
and that's part of the healing process too.
Yeah.
Like you're working through it.
Yeah, that's right. So she says, look, the best thing for you to do is to tell your parents before the police do. So Keli calls her parents and she tells them that something that happened years ago is being brought up now. She needs to tell them now because the police are pretty much on their way to see them. So she says, look, I had a baby. The police think I've done something to it. And so her parents, quote unquote, believe the story that Tegan was given to Andrew. But obviously the phones are still wiretapped, right?
Yeah.
So let's listen to this. And you tell me what side of the fence you think her mother is sitting on.
Hi, Mum, it's me. Hi. Hi, how are you? You know, I mean, you told me that this young guy's taken the baby to raise it. Yeah. Which is really unusual, you must admit yourself. Yeah. So was the child still alive up until 3 years ago? Up until... Well, you said they first contacted you 3 years ago. Yeah, I'm under the assumption she still is now. And that he's just disappeared with the child? Yeah. Because it's just so unlike a young bloke to want to raise a child. That's the thing I just can't sort of grip. But obviously that's what you agreed, isn't it? Well, I didn't really have too many options.
She would...
Yeah, that's very strange because the part where she says, oh yeah, it's unlike a bloke to do that.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That part haunts me. That part was like, because that's what you agreed. Isn't it? And that's the bit that sticks with me. So what I take away from that is Sandra, her mother, cannot possibly grip the fact that Andrew would want to do that because out of place, so again, we're talking about the 90s, what kind of man wants to take on a baby when he's in an actual long-term relationship with someone else, and this is the product of an affair, right? So Keli does whatever any other sane woman would do, and that is to continue through with getting married. So that's what she does in February of 2004. The husband's identity, like I said, is still suppressed by the courts today, but they are divorced now. 3 weeks later, the Manly police refer Tegan's case to the New South Wales coroner, and that's when the inquiry begins. So at this point, Tegan had been missing for 7.5 years. So Karl Milovanic, who is the New South Wales Deputy State Coroner, places a non-publication order on the case. And in my opinion, I think that this is because you know how you don't want to introduce bias into a case, and you don't want to kind of like interfere with court proceedings. So this means that the media cannot report on anything relating to the case, and nothing can be made public. And I think he also wanted to do it because he was trying to offer Keli a deal. And he did. Like, people still wonder why she didn't take this. He offered her a deal and he said, look, I'll grant you immunity on anything other than the basis of murder. If you just tell me what happened to her, just tell me where she is.
Yeah. Which is, even at this point, you can sort of think, okay, something has happened.
Yeah. Alright, so I've got this is some audio that was taken during the closed court hearing.
Today, on the basis that these proceedings are heard in camera, and this is a closed court. I suppose the message that I want to get through to Miss Lane is that if there is any information that she can give to the police that might find Tegan, live or dead, now is the time to do it. Because after today, the gloves will come off, and I will use the media to try and get information to the community. The media will turn this into a nightmare. It will be a media event.
It was her get out of jail threat.
So she didn't even want to take the deal. She never entertained taking the deal. She said to Caro, the investigative reporter, this is not something I would ever admit to doing. So the coroner lifts the non-publication order and he lets the case into the public forum because he was hoping that with the assistance of the media, Tegan would be found alive and healthy, right? So he essentially wanted to use the media for a good purpose. And then I'm going to play you what hit the press, and this is like a what do they call it? A medley of stuff that was floating around Aussie news.
Excuse me, please.
Mrs. Lane.
Excuse me, please.
The coroner has ordered an inquiry into the suspected death of a baby girl.
We're hoping that with the assistance of the media that we can find the baby alive and well and a healthy child today.
Keli Lane left the coroner's court, but she'll be back here for a full inquiry into the suspected death of Tegan.
So, in June of 2005, New South Wales State Coroner John Abernathy, he takes over the case. And he said that he really wanted to get to the bottom of this. He wanted to delve into who actually was Andrew. What did he look like? How old was he? What was he like as a person? So, Keli's defence counsel, Peter Hamill, said that there were gaping holes in the police's investigation because at this point you have to understand the police are still investigating, right? Yeah. And it's been so long, it takes a while to dredge up all this information. So Sergeant Beecroft obtained records relating to contact between Keli and Andrew in 1996. So they approached telecommunication companies to look at phone records, and they found that Keli didn't have a phone, at least in her name, until December of 1996. So there were no phones registered in her name until 3 months after Tegan was born. In her interviews with detectives, she tells them that the last time she spoke to Andrew or his partner Mel, was in January or February of 97, and that the phone number may still be connected. So she stayed in touch with him after September when Tegan was born on her mobile phone. And then, as it turns out, checks on this phone were not further investigated as it fell outside of the period of interest.
Jeez.
So Keli's 96 mobile phone records were never obtained by police, and they have subsequently been destroyed. So reporters look into who she dated during this time, and you may know this person in the press because you're a rugby fan. Duncan Gillies!
Yep, I remember that guy.
Was, I don't know if he still is, a player of the Manly Rugby Club, and they dated between 95 and 98. He's a bit of a idiot.
Yep.
And I say that because he says that he doesn't know that she was pregnant when they had relations, and insisted that it was done in certain positions during 7 months. And the bit that really fucking pissed me off is that the men, part of this legal proceeding, were laughing like, oh, she only wanted to do it in doggy style, so that not missionary, because she didn't want him to see. Like, that's what they were laughing about.
Which is pretty shit.
So a bit of sexism there. I'm trying to be as unbiased as I go through this as possible, but I do think that that's quite sexist, if I do say so myself.
Yep.
Duncan says that he only saw her a few times a week, which is still a hell of a lot of time, but whatever. So on the 13th of February 2006, Keli is called as the last witness to give evidence. She refused to answer questions about what happened to Tegan. She exercised her right against self-incrimination, and she was stood down. She now says that she was advised by her legal team to do so. After the inquest, the coroner said, "I'm comfortably satisfied that Tegan Lane is in fact deceased."
Yeah.
And he had homicide called in, and they were going to do a more thorough investigation. So when she was first interviewed, she described Andrew, apparently. So back in the 2001 interview, she spoke about his height. She said that he had mousy brown hair, that he was Caucasian. But police were very focused on the name rather than the face. So Caro, who's the investigative reporter now, that we're following throughout the documentary, she wanted a comfort done, which is essentially a forensic image drawn up by an artist. So she calls in Terry Dunnett, who is sergeant of the forensic unit. So they arrange for him to see Keli in prison, and 3 hours later, he comes back saying... Oh, so basically, I should give a bit of context. What he says is that his training means that he has a good bullshit meter.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, you can make up a face, but it's very obvious when you do that.
Yeah.
And he was more concerned about what's her memory going to be like. You know, we're talking about events at this stage that happened over 10 years ago. So he was like, oh, I wonder what her memory's going to be like. So he goes in, he does a sketch with her, comes back, and he says, look, her memory was good, and that in his opinion, this was not just a random face. She did not sway from his descriptions of him. And he said, and so then Cara goes, so this is Andrew Morris. And he goes, I don't know if that person is Andrew Morris, but the person that she described to me is a real, in my opinion, a real person that exists.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Another reason why it's not an exact science. You know what I mean? Like, but whatever. Good on them for doing it, I guess. So we jump back to, I guess, the next part of the proceedings. So we now know that it's out of the coroner's court. It's now a homicide investigation.
Yeah.
So on the morning, the day of the verdict, Keli says it was the same as every other day. She didn't think that she was going to get put away from this. So she didn't even say pretty much goodbye to her kids. She left dishes in the sink because she thought, there's no way I'm being put away for this, right? So the inquest finished in 2006, and at this point, Tegan would have been, I think she would have been 16 or so. The case is referred to homicide, and Detective Sharon Rhodes takes over and brings her to trial. This detective is no longer on the force, so she's like moved away, and she's done stuff so she couldn't be found. And when Caro actually contacted her, she was like actually shocked to be found. She says that because of the high profile nature of the case, she was under a lot of pressure and she almost lost her mind.
Yeah.
She said that she set out to find Tegan and to put her to rest. Apparently, she was one of the people who really pushed to find evidence surrounding Tegan, and one of the things that she wanted to do was start looking under houses that were connected to Keli, under houses in Sydney, pretty much. So what they did was they went to Duncan Gillies' house, because it was known that she pretty much lived in there at least part-time, and it was a grid search. And this was the part that was heartbreaking, because not because they didn't find her in the places I'm going to list, but because they had to look there to begin with. So she said Tegan wasn't in the walls, in the roof, in the backyard, and she wasn't on the property. So the whole property was excavated. We know that Keli's place was bugged and all her phones were tapped, right? So during one of these phone calls, she very confidently says some real fucking disturbing and really rude shit that I'm going to play for you now. But I want you to tell me your opinion,
yep.
All right?
I mean, they've already checked it. They already took the dogs in and there's nothing there. So why make a fanfare of digging it up?
I remember one of the...
Yeah, they can dig to fucking China for all I give a fuck.
How do you account for that?
Just so excited that they might stumble across a sports star or a famous person's sex life and they want to, I think they just get off on all the juicy just ridiculous. Yeah.
You're not a sports star, bitch.
No.
Right? The only reason why anyone knows your name is because they think you're a baby killer.
Yep, that's all.
No one gives a flying fuck. And how, just the...
Audacity.
Yeah. All right.
And the bit where she's laughing and says, they could dig to China for all I care, that's... At this point, if...
That's someone who's happy that the baby hasn't been found.
Yeah.
That they're searching the wrong place, that they haven't got her.
Yeah. And honestly, I think what she has done is something a lot more sinister.
So, police set to identify the fathers of all of Keli's children because they wanted to build a bank of DNA to compare, if they ever found Tegan, right, they wanted to have a bank of DNA to compare to if she is ever found. So the identities of two of Keli's other live children are known, but again, all this information is suppressed by the courts.
Yeah.
Apparently the guys were gutted when they find out, but it's like, dude, you're having sex. What the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Right? There's a chance every time, but that's just my personal opinion. So November of 2008 rolls by, and at this point the Unsolved Homicide Court has been investigating Keli for approximately 2 years, and they still have not obtained any kind of admission of guilt. They went undercover, they obtained DNA samples, they tried everything, but they still had squat.
Yeah.
So, in Australian law, circumstantial evidence is not enough to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Keli had done this. And again, we already spoke, we don't have a body, we don't have evidence, we don't have a murder weapon. Putting someone away for this, even though it fits the bill, is very hard.
Yep.
So the police and the prosecution approached Nicholas Cowdery, and he's a member of the QC, Queen's Counsel, and he was the Director of Public Prosecutions at the time, and they wanted some legal advice. So the police said, look, we just wanted some advice. We want to know what the likelihood of a possible murder charge without Tegan's body would be,
Yeah.
And so his view was that the case could be prosecuted because her behaviour, her actions, all indicated that the case had legs to stand on. Sorry,
Literally.
hiccup. Beyond reasonable doubt. So, in November 2009, there's a 12-month review, and after further investigation, the director decide to charge her with murder. Mark Tedeschi, who was the lead prosecutor in the trial, says that the case was entirely circumstantial. They had to prove death, like I said, without a body, and that whatever happened to Tegan was deliberate.
Yeah.
Whatever Keli did to her was deliberate. So this left them having to have a look at all of the other births and pregnancies that Keli had carried. Because although it was not directly related to Tegan, it didn't mean that... So, you know how when they were asking her, oh, you have all these other kids, and she was like, nope, 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 nope? That was perjury.
Yes, it was.
So she had committed 3 counts of perjury. So they constructed that based on all of her previous relationships and pregnancies and all the lies that she told, trying to keep things from friends and family, that, you know, that they could take this to court. And so the presiding judge, Anthony Wheely, said that he received no application from the defence to block any of these perjury charges. So, because of all of this and lying, and you're essentially up there for perjury, and all your other lies, you're completely incredible as a person.
Yep.
So she's going on the stand knowing that no one's going to believe what comes out of her mouth.
And it's just making it look worse.
So she was represented by Ben Archibald, and he was a former police officer and a former contestant on Big Brother. Catherine Laurie, she assisted him, but she didn't want to be part of this investigative journalism documentary. They were both instructed by Keith Chappell, who ran Keli's case. He said that he had 3 weeks to get on top of things before trial began. Police looked for Tegan in schools in every single state around Australia, but they couldn't find her. When trial began in August of 2008, the prosecutors focused on the why, not the how and the when, right? So the theory behind why she would have killed Tegan was literally all over the shop. And some of these were absolutely ridiculous. John, the guy who essentially chased all this up from the DHS, right? He was like the person who found Keli's existence. He had a theory in his own head, and he said it to the prosecutor. And he said, look, dude, for all we know, she buried Tegan at Olympic Park.
Yeah.
Because she was trying to compete for the Olympics. You know, she was trying to get into the Olympic team. She thought she was so good. And then so that's what the prosecutor opened with. So this was withdrawn, and no one was allowed to say what led to that theory. Because that statement was put out there, the judge asked the defence if they wanted a retrial. Keli said nope, and they moved on because Keli just wanted things over and done with. So the next thing that came as a theory was, hell, she was at this wedding, wasn't she? So that was the main motive, that she had to be at her friend's wedding, and she didn't want to look like she didn't want to feel like she was second best, and she didn't want anyone of her friends and family to know, right? And then it jumped to, look, she was aiming to compete in the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, right? This was the first time water polo was going to be in the Olympics in her city, in her country. She would have wanted to be on that team representing her country. And having the baby was going to get in the middle of that dream, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
But that was discounted because her coaches said that she was not in the running for a chance on the team at all, right? So prosecutors come forward with the Andrew Morris, right? So they went around Australia and they found Andrew Morris. He said that he had an encounter with Keli, but he did not have Tegan, essentially, right? He was never brought up as a witness on the stand, and he was sent home. It turns out that one of her friends had a conversation with Keli years back when she was drunk, and she mentioned that she was having an affair with a guy named Andrew, and that kind of fit the timeline, 10, 15 years ago. And this was her friend Keli. And Keli is, I think she's a credible source. She works with NATO under child protection sort of stuff and protecting kids. So she has a high caliber job, You wouldn't get hired for an organisation like that in taking care of children and lying, you'd think. But she says, look, I remember her talking about this guy called Andrew, saying she was having an affair with him, and it fit the timeline of Keli's conception. Is that the word I'm after?
Yep.
However, basically the trade-off was, all right, we will not interview Andrew Morris if you don't put the friend, Natalie, on stand. Right? So that was the agreement. So basically, in exchange for not calling Andrew to the stand, the defence wouldn't call Natalie. In the show, they interview this Andrew, and he says for certainty that he cannot say for certainty that it was Keli that he had slept with, because very much so, the way he says it was like, oh, the police interviewed me and they were taking me around Manly and they were like, oh, there's this groupie who hangs around with the rugby club, right? And she likes to sleep with any guy she can get. And he was like, oh, yeah, all right, there's a lot of groupies, maybe. And, oh, and she had blonde hair, and Keli has blonde hair, and this girl looked like this, and, you know, you're saying this girl looked like, you know, Keli looked like this, and he, you know. So they planted fake evidence. Do you know what I mean? They led this guy to believe that it was Keli. And he has since recounted and said, like, look, I can't say that for sure that was indeed Keli, if that makes sense. Did I explain that clearly?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So, Dr. Ann Buist was called in as a psychiatric expert to talk to Keli. And she told Keli that the first pregnancy was a result of a date rape while she was drunk. But it's like, I thought you said the baby was Aaron's. Right? So did Aaron date rape you? I'm not pointing fingers and saying she has to explain, but also please explain.
Yeah, please explain.
So she's saying that the first pregnancy was a result of date rape. And she breastfed her children, so because it was known that Keli had breastfed, it doesn't psychologically fit the profile of someone wanting to harm their child. Yeah. Because you would assume it's a very strong bond to have breast. Not that I'm saying that people who don't breastfeed don't have a strong bond with their children. What I'm saying is, in the context of this case, they're saying Keli breastfed and then within 24 hours had done something and gotten rid of Tegan, right? Yeah. That didn't fit this psychiatric expert said it didn't fit the bill of a psychiatric profile for someone to do that, for someone to harm their child after she's breastfed all the children. So after 4 months of evidence and submissions, the jury deliberates for 8 days, and they simply just kind of couldn't agree. What I'm going to play now is kind of what was the end, if you will, of that court case. Sorry, let me just find the right section. Alright, are we ready? Alright, yep. This is the 2010 judgment.
I find that the offence was premeditated, but only for a short time. It was committed in a situation of desperation, arising from a sense of entrapment and isolation.
So, in April of 2011, Keli was sentenced to 18 years in prison for the murder of Tegan. Keli has since appealed to... she's attempted to appeal her conviction, but she has been unsuccessful. She is eligible for parole in 2023, so in 3 years.
And also the other thing too, regarding that sentence, because she's committed perjury, you can get, 5 years in jail just for lying under oath.
That one thing alone, yeah. So the judge says that, look, this had had such an effect on him and such a toll that he has not presided over another criminal trial. Sharon Rhodes, who was the lead detective at the time for the homicide unit, who was doing all the digging organising all the digging and stuff, she says, look, I was medically discharged with PTSD, and says that this case broke her. And you can imagine the amount of pressure that they were putting on the cops just to have anything to stick to the wall at this point, right?
Yep.
You can tell they were getting desperate, hurting people to make false statements. The psychiatrist said something about the Andrew Morris thing was superficial. So when she was questioned at the end of the documentary, so the psychiatrist was like, look, something's wrong with the Andrew Morris thing. I can't put my finger on it, but something's wrong.
Yeah.
So they questioned Keli about it, and this was so fucking just
annoying
and cringe to have to witness, right? So Kara's like, are you sure his name is Andrew Morris or Norris? And she's like, how dare you question me? I don't want to be attacked. And, you know, it's such a big toll on her and it affects her so fucking much, you know? How dare you question my credibility? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not a liar. And then, you know how you're in a prison, you only have like all this is done over a certain, like, you know, you can have 5-minute calls.
Yeah.
Right? So she calls back after that 5-minute conversation ends. And then, so she's like, she maintained that his first name was Andrew. She says he responded to Andrew. She says, yes, she could be mistaken, or yes, he could have given her a false name. And then Kara's like, thank you, like, that's all I needed you, because at this point, Keli has never admitted she said wrong information.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal, right? And then Kara's like, fuck. And then she's like, and then in my head I'm like, well, if she's lied about this and she's only coming to terms that she has Andrew's name wrong, what else is she bloody wrong about?
Yeah, exactly.
So, basically she's saying Andrew could not be the real name. So this whole time, they're looking for someone by the wrong name. So, as of the conclusion of the documentary the documentary was pretty much put out there in January of 2019, right? Yep. And so, as of January 2019, they said that the wake of the documentary, the New South Wales Department of Justice was considering a petition to review the trial and conviction of Keli Lane for murder. The petition was going to be driven by RMIT's Innocence Initiative because they believed that the case was a miscarriage of justice. But from what I could tell, no information was forthcoming regarding the progress of this petition thus far, so there's no updates on that. Despite the failed appeal in 2013, Keli still maintains her innocence, and she believes and says that Andrew and Tegan are out there somewhere. So at this point, she's serving an 18-year prison sentence. She's going to be eligible for parole on the 12th of May 2040 after serving a period of 13 years and 5 months in custody.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
If
you're asking me personally, I think she did do it.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I think it's not... They've gone out into the country somewhere and just...
Yeah.
And they'll, like, for instance, as much as she's done prison, it was never confirmed, so...
It is very open-ended in that fact because there is no body, there is no murder weapon, there is no evidence, there's no crime scene. But I personally believe that, yes, she did in fact... You know, I mean... Even if Tegan was out there, Tegan wouldn't know that she's Tegan.
Yeah, and also there's just so much bullshit behind the actual case regarding what she's saying and everything. It's so mixed up that... You can't colour up from down. You can't discern what actually happened. So, yeah.
Personally, I don't think she's going to have served enough time.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, like I said, I wanted to pick up some more true crime, but I figured I would, like I said, ease us into it. We did a missing person. Now we did a not so... We don't have any... For all we know, this could have been a violent story. We just don't know what happened, but I thought I'd work us up to hard-hitting cases. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I just still think it's, dodgy as hell. She's done it, but she's sort of got away with it in a way. And it's so warped.
So
yeah,
that's it. That's what I leave you with. Please be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions. What you think, whether you think she did it, I don't know. When I say I don't know, I just mean like...
I think she did it.
Oh, I don't want to say I know because...
99.9% sure that she did it. Because it's just all, the way she was acting. And
just something about the way she speaks about it and listening to
She's
her
almost just
in the interviews.
Laughing and joking about it.
Yeah, something just does not sit right with me. I'm not saying I'm the best auditory cue consultant, but in my heart, in my gut, something just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's all I have for you today.
Yeah, no worries.
Be sure to let me know, us know, what you think, what side of the fence you sit or stand on. As always, if there's a specific topic you want us to cover in this podcast, please be sure to let us know, whether you email us, whatever, reach out on any social medias, or you fill out a topic request form in our topic request form, which you can find linked in our show notes and description. Thank you so much to literally the last episode that we uploaded it's been live less than 12 hours, and people have gone nuts for it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
For your support. It's absolutely crazy. Not that we care about the numbers, but the fact that
people
they're picking it up. You know, the numbers are picking up and increasing.
It's more just, people enjoying themselves. That's the main thing.
So thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Yep.
I hope you enjoyed this topic. Next week we're picking back up with the next Ancient Wonder, I believe. Is that what we're doing? No! Next week we're doing a special request that you requested a little while ago.
Oh, nice.
That is set up and ready to go.
Cool beans.
Alrighty, hoity-toity then. That's it from me.
Yep, that's it from me. And until next time, I'm FullMetalChicken.
I'm Stephfafahh.
And we be signing off.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
And also with you.
And yes, I'm going to go back to editing again now.
That's fine. I'm going to have breakfast and lunch.
It's only going to take me like 7 years to finish. But anyways, yes. So keep posted on that. It's about 50% through, so that's going to drop in a few weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, everybody. Hoity-toity.
Hoity-toity. Next time, enjoy, and thanks for listening. Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Adios.
Muchachos.
Adios, muchachos. Jamatane.
Oh my god.
Yes. Signing off. Again. Bye.